Welcome to the Pedal Collaborative podcast. We're so glad you're here.
Hey everybody, welcome back. It's another week of the Pedal Collaborative podcast. I am Paul, and I'm here with Alan.
Hey, what's going on, Polly boy?
Dude, well, I'm back from the West Coast, and you're on the West Coast.
I'm on.
So
I think we had like a 2-day overlap, and then I went out to LA.
Yeah, we flip-flopped.
Yeah,
so
we did.
But hey,
I was
it's
so
March.
lonely last week. I was so lonely.
I know. Your post on the channel made me laugh on Instagram. I was so unavailable to you, but now I'm back and we can talk. We can.
I think the worst was like, since we share locations with each other, right? And
Yes.
I could tell exactly where you were, and at the Orange County. It wasn't. No, gosh, I'm getting all these convention centers.
You're in
mixed
Orange
up.
County. I was in Las Vegas.
Yeah, so you're at the Vegas Convention Center, but I'm like, oh, I know exactly where he is, and
but not talking, just watching me on the
yeah,
little
yeah.
little
But
dot
you would
in the
respond
ground.
to my text, like you would just emojis on my ridiculous things.
That's
I mean,
that's
people
what
think
happens.
people think I say ridiculous things on the podcast. They should see our text thread.
Yes, we keep that private.
We do.
Yes.
So yeah, you're saying it's March.
Yeah, it's March. So it's been, for me, that means baseball season is in the air. For those who don't know, I used to have a baseball podcast as well. Now out of print, or what? Out
Is
of
it?
air. What do you say?
Man.
I don't know. What do you say there?
Out of print. I like out of print.
Baseball season, and then most importantly for our channel, it is March Madness season, and we have Klone Wars that we mentioned last week now in full force, which by the time of people listening to this, there'll be two matchups out there. Our first one's going right now, which is the KTR versus the Tumnus.
Yeah.
And at the time of recording here, the KTR is winning by quite a bit. So unless there is some dramatic fourth quarter, aka in the next 24 hours, change, looks like the KTR is moving on.
I think Brian Wampler, you need to get your cronies all on Instagram. Come follow the Pedal Collaborative on Instagram and
get them to vote for the Tumnus.
Yeah.
I will say, so now that, because I didn't want to color, but this one will be after that one's done for the first round.
Yeah.
I was surprised. So when I was making this, and we did talk about last week how I did it like with a loop, I think.
We recorded last week's 2 weeks ago. So
yeah. So, but anyhow, recording the loops, it was all the same guitar riff, same dynamics. It was just a loop into each pedal, and I tried to match the settings. And I kind of like lost the narrative in the process of like they all started to sound the same because they are all the same circuit.
Right.
Now, I will say, giving it, because I recorded those like sometime in February, the first round here.
Yeah.
And then you edited them.
Yeah.
Listening back, there are actually like differences between them.
There are.
In particularly with the one that I can color because it's going to be done by the time this is out. So the KTR is like thicker across the board than the Tumnus.
Okay.
Which is interesting though. If I listen to the 2AB, which I did when posting this, the KTR is almost a little muddy on the power chords, but then that thickness makes the lead part sound awesome.
Yeah.
Whereas the fact that the Tumnus has a little bit more like highs and mids in it, the chords sound awesome, but then the lead parts sound a little thin. So I was like surprised to like sort of listen A, B with my ears fresh. And I was like, oh, there is definitely subtle nuance to these.
Right.
Well, I'm excited to hear more.
I think so many manufacturers that make clones of the Klon, I think they really try and capture a nuance of what Bill Finnegan has done. And generally, this is a broad swath of a statement, but pedal companies will try and make it that Klon buffered clean sound, and that's kind of like, let's capture that, as opposed to the Klon, which is the Klon, right? It's all of it.
Yeah, it can be a mid drive, it can be a clean boost, it can go before or after other drives. So yeah, I'm excited to see what people think. Overwhelmingly right now it's like 83% to 17% KTR.
Yeah. Well, somebody posted on Instagram of when they saw the brackets, because the brackets will be live.
This is a heavyweight matchup.
Yeah. The brackets are going to be live. Everybody, they're live now, but they'll be live all month, updating as we go. But yeah, the KTR versus the Tumnus was like a heavyweight matchup, which when I looked at it, I'm like, really? I mean, the KTR is going to win. I mean, that's my expectation.
Well, I tried to seed it a little bit, like, so obviously the KTR was like the 1 seed because it is a Klon, but it itself is technically the second iteration of the original big box
Right,
Klon.
right. You get the
So
Centaur, which is
it's
the
not
first
really
one.
a clone since it's
Right,
built by the same guy, but it is
right.
in and of itself. So I was like, that's our 1 seed if you're doing like the way the March Madness bracket works. And then the Tumnus, just because it was newer, I like seeded lower because it's like it's not as like I think the Tumnus is even after the Voyager as far as like
I think so.
yeah, because the Voyager came out in like 2011, I want to say.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, our next matchup, I believe, actually is, which will be airing the same day as this episode. I believe it's the Walrus shootout of the Voyager Mark
Ooh.
1 versus the Mark 2.
Oh, interesting.
So yes, we can't talk about we
Oh,
can't color that
no.
one because it'll be
No.
voted at the same time as this episode.
I love that you did it that way. And I think
Yeah,
it'll
I
be
wanted
interesting
to
to
just
see.
have a Walrus shootout tomorrow.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, aside from editing the videos when you were in Vegas, I've been hands off, and I intentionally edited those w with more so just, like, matching up the audio to what on the audio track to the video track and not as much listening to it because I didn't wanna color myself. Um,
yeah,
and so
it's funny
it's
because there's not much to. I realize there's not much to match up because it's just a loop playing into a pedal, but
right,
like
right, but,
making sure
making
that the
sure that
time of it matches up
right.
so it doesn't loop weird and there's like a git glitch or anything. But
Well, I noticed, I think I told you I did, like, half of them and then realized I was cutting the audio too soon at the top, and, my software, like, it does an auto fade in, so I was like, "Oh, we're missing the very beginning," so I had to go back and redo it anyway. Oh, yeah, so super excited. Okay, so, how can people vote for this? That's the
yeah,
question.
so the way it's set up, we had to figure this out because there's just different rules between Instagram and Facebook. Each one of these posts is an Instagram post where you will see the 2 pedal videos. Swipe once to see the second one. The first one will be there, and then we have our Clone Wars logo after that. Uh, so each one will be a post each day, and then as soon as we post the 2 videos, there will be a story that corresponds where you can vote in a poll for either pedal.
Yeah,
So it's a
okay,
24-hour matchup for
24-hour
each one.
voting. Okay,
So
okay,
from when it goes live to when we close it, it'll be there. So and then our plan is, so today is recording. We're recording Tuesday. This will be out Wednesday, but we'll have one each day this week. So by Friday,
okay.
we'll have our setup for next week. We'll know what our final 4 is.
Cool, cool.
So we can announce the final 4 matchup on Friday afternoon. We can say, hey, next week you'll see these matchups.
So then
So
next week there's just 2? It's the semis, right? Or
yep, 2, and
okay,
then we'll have the final week will be the championship. So
okay, so what if we do next week, because it's only 2, what if we do calendar the 11th and 13th? Tuesday and Thursday.
sure, sounds great. I like how we're making this up now again on podcast live. But yes, yeah, that way, hey, that way everybody, there'll be like a thing from us every day of the week next week if we do it that way.
Yeah. Ooh, daylight savings on
Hey, it's a little daylight savings treat, a piece of content every
there
day
you
from us.
go, every day.
But yeah, it's you have the fun joy of returning from the West Coast on daylight savings week, so you'll have
Yeah.
like a day and a half gap before the time changes in the way that makes you lose time too. So you're
Well,
really
I'm okay, just censored myself. I'm screwed like doubly because I'm taking the red eye home Thursday night. Um, I hate doing all
yeah.
day travel, so I red eye, and which means I get home, and when I get home, you know, rightly so, my partner's been home with, the little ones all week. Everyone's sick. I didn't tell you that, dude. Um, Last Tuesday when I had, like, such a shitty day, um,
Yes,
it
everybody was sick.
oh, yeah, I didn't tell you. Like, I got home to the little one puking his guts out. Yeah,
Oh no.
yeah,
Well,
and then
yeah, you guys are in for a fun time.
and then when, then everybody else in the house got sick the day before I left, and I was about to, like, call my new boss, whom had stayed in the US an extra week to do
Yeah.
onboarding with me, and I was about to say, yo, dude, I gotta bail." But, so I have some not necessarily happy ones at the house, right now,
Yeah, so
and
you're
I
gonna be coming home on a red eye into
on
that
a red eye
situation,
into
and then time
Friday,
changes
straight
on
into
Sunday.
the little ones, and then time change.
Pretty
So,
cool.
very
It sounds
cool.
fun. So
Oh,
while we're talking about pretty cool things, look at this
let's
segue.
let's pause and segue into an undiscussed one. You and I are this is not this is a plug, but it's not a sponsored one. It's a because we just have it. We're actually both using Shure mics now to do
I know, look
podcasts.
at you.
Yeah,
Sure, Mike.
sure. Yeah. Because you have, the SM7B, right?
And DB, the one
The
with the preamp built
DB.
into it.
Okay. Is that the cloud
Oh,
lifter?
yeah, it's got the cloud lift built into it,
Okay.
so it can go. I have it. I think whatever the middle setting is of DB boost, not the
Okay, okay.
28. It's like 28, and I don't know what the other one is.
Nice.
It's
And
just always been that way since I got it.
yeah, so my day-to-day job, is in the world of professional audio, so I have friends in high places everywhere, so I called up a buddy of mine at Shure and was like, "Hey, I need a new podcast mic," and he's like, "Alright, we'll make it happen." So I've got the new M7 is it M7VI?
MV7, it's
MV
MV7, right?
sorry, Shure.
I know what
MV7i.
you have, and you don't even know it's in front
Yeah.
of you. I'm like, see, I'm looking at it too.
Well, you're looking at it yeah, we might be recording video right now. I don't remember if I changed the settings or not.
I don't know.
I don't know, it doesn't matter,
Either way.
but, if y'all like the sounds, people always ask, like, what are good podcasting mics? And, the, SM7DB and the MV7i, I can say right now, 11 minutes into the podcast, I'm a fan.
Yeah, you sound good. I will
Thank
also
you.
make a weird pitch off of this related to guitar playing. So I
That's not what this
have
that's not what this podcast is about.
Yeah, it's not what it's about. Guitar
Yeah.
playing, I'll go back to that. Yes, you do sound good, and we're both unsure now. So I actually love the SM7DB. I had an SM7B previously, and it was just like a if you can iterate, you want to kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, I'd like the cloud lifter built in.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
actually love this mic for two reasons. One, it's great for podcasting. It's sort of, in some ways, I think this is like the industry standard is the SM7DB or
Mm,
SM7B at least.
right,
I'm not sure everybody moved to the DB yet.
right.
Um, but I have loved this microphone for years. It's a great vocal mic. Michael Jackson used it all the time for vocals. That's
A
like
lot of
what
people do.
it's. Yeah, but like I think Michael Jackson. I think they say that on the Shure, or they used to at least on the
Yeah,
Shure site.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, this guy, this small little artist. But I actually love if you turn off the cloud lifter and just use it as a dynamic mic like it was initially intended. I love how this sounds on a cabinet when you're recording
Yeah.
guitars.
Oh, yeah.
Um, it has always been actually like my go-to cabinet mic. Now I have used the DPA ones, which I've used several different ones cabinet wise, but because of the fact that, and Shure in general sort of just has like a warmer sound to the mic as like sort
Right.
of part of the bump of the mic.
Yeah.
When you're
EQ
recording
curve.
like a cabinet just direct into the grill, I feel like the EQ curve of this gives it like body that I usually have to create in post and
Yeah.
takes away some of the nasaliness of a guitar with like overdrive bite. So that's for me. This mic has become like a catch-all for like podcasting, vocals, guitars. Doesn't really, I don't really use it for anything else, but
Sure.
I do like using it on guitar cabs. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, the DPS are great. I mean, I worked for them for 8 years, so I've always been a big fan, and, just a totally different type of beast. It's a more, accurate. They don't really color anything, so it
well, yeah,
does
as
require a
we've
bit more
actually
in post
discussed,
sometimes.
since we both have some history with DPA, it's almost too accurate sometimes. Where if you like aren't like if you're a sloppy singer like myself, sometimes the DPA mic is like it haunts you,
Doesn't
and
hide. Right.
you realize just how bad you are at certain things. When it's like, wow, I really like my plosives are like I can't hide them at all.
You
They're
can't,
just
right.
there. And oh man, I need to like drink more water because you can hear how dry my throat is in this take. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, so, I mean,
uh,
if you're wanting a very, 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 very accurate, uh, capture, then DP is a good way to go, but,
I like how we just went into mic pro audio talk
I
for a second. Just
know. Let's I mean, I'm looking at the time and, we're we're jamming these
yeah,
in
this is a
between our
short. This
work
is a
calls.
short episode. This is
Um,
like lunch. This is lunch break episode today.
lunch break, I love it.
Um,
Let's
I
talk
want to talk.
about no, I wanna talk.
Well,
You
I was
talk?
going to say I made my pivot, but you cut me off to talk
I know.
microphones.
So
But my
you go ahead
pivot
and pivot.
was things that are really cool, sarcastic tone is what I was saying.
Okay.
So we're both very confused about, and we put a first sounds video out. You
Yeah.
have it at your house, I think.
Yeah.
So we have on this podcast, I think before speculated about like, okay, Strymon came out with the Big Sky MX last
Yes.
year, maybe 2
Last
years
year
ago
in
now,
2024.
2024.
Yeah.
And so I think the general consensus amongst everybody was, okay, cool. There'll be a timeline redux at some point here. We got to have something. Weirdly, because the timeline actually is older than the Big Sky, so it's interesting that the Big Sky MX came first.
Yes.
And so we were sort of patiently waiting, assuming like, hey, Strymon will have a new timeline soon. It'll be out eventually. And they decided to throw a curveball and release a miniature L cap,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. A single head tape delay.
What's it called? The EC-1?
The EC-1.
Yeah. I'll go on record and say I don't understand the Strymon miniseries at all. The Cloudburst, we have the Cloudburst, the Violet,
The ultraviolet.
the Ultraviolet, the Brig, and now the EC-1. Um, they're generally on average about $100 or so less than their like mid-sized, I guess.
Right.
Since these aren't really mini, but they're smaller than their
They're smaller,
middle,
right?
like the Blue Sky, the El
Right.
Cap,
Right.
the Riverside, etc. I don't get it. I don't know who it's for because it's like limited from the El Cap. The El Cap is a great tape delay. You can speak more because you played with this one. I don't know why they put this. I don't know what this. I don't know who this pedal's for.
So I think this pedal is for someone who wants that tape delay sound. And what they must have done. Let me back up a bit. Let's look at the Cloudburst. The Cloudburst is the cloud algorithm from the Big Sky, which is arguably their most popular algorithm from the Big Sky. So it makes sense in a way of like, hey, like let's put this one algorithm, add a couple tweaks to it, and make it a single switch stomp box. Great. All right, makes sense. And then they did the Brig, and the Brig is like their vintage delay, like their D
What's
bucket.
weird though is they discontinued the Brigadier at the same time.
Yeah, which basically makes the Brig the Brigadier V2, right?
Yeah, in some ways, yeah.
In some ways. So that makes sense because they got rid of it. And then
is it missing features though?
They've just adjusted some of them, I think. I haven't done a feature spec side to side. The Brig sounds great. It does. But then they did the ultraviolet, which is just strange. And I mean, but that's just a genre of stuff that you and I don't necessarily go into a lot. So the EC-1 is a stripped down version of the LCAP, meaning that it's a single head tape delay. You don't have multiple heads that you can adjust. It doesn't have any reverb, and a lot fewer parameters that you can tweak, but you can adjust the preamp boost. There's like a switch that kind of gives like off, low, and high, but then also a secondary function to make the preamp boost. So you can get overdrive out of it. And in fact, there's a section on the First Sounds video that is like I crank it all up, and it's pretty ballsy. But yeah, what the hell, Strymon? Where is the timeline?
I know it feels weird to put this out because I think I don't remember when the El Cap V2 came out, but I feel like
it was before the Big Sky MX.
But like I didn't want another tape delay. I want the Strymon. Yeah. I want the Timeline MX or whatever they're going to call it.
So here's my thought, because going back to the Big Sky MX, there was speculation, largely pushed by me, that they named it the MX to directly just slam the Marys Mercury X because
the naming convention
X,
is confusingly similar.
Yeah. And was it like what Terry's from Line 6, right? So like, no, sorry, Terry came from Strymon. Like he helped found Strymon, and then branched off and did Marys. So there's this. I don't know if it's a feud or a war. Gino was very, very gracious and wouldn't really talk much about that. But it's like I was expecting there to be like a Timeline LX coming to kind of knock the LVX.
Oh, to just
right,
and also maximize confusion of Google searches.
But yeah, it's like they just mess with SEO. I think the difference though is like when the original Timeline came out in March of whatever year, and the Big Sky came out in October. So there's like a 6-month wait between the two, and it's been almost a year since the Big Sky MX came out, and there's no talk. They just came out with the EC-1, which is completely not anywhere close to what a second gen of the Timeline would be. So people were expecting it to come out at NAMM in January of 25. Nothing. We just get this little baby. So
yeah, it's so strange. I don't understand what's happening, but it was I mean, it's not like the pedal sounds bad. I listened to your first sounds.
I mean, it sounds good. It's just
I feel like, in my opinion, too, the price points of those. So I actually get the Cloudburst as we were talking through the ones I put out. I think I get the Cloudburst a little bit more than I understand this, because the Cloudburst is like a much lower price point than a Big Sky or a Big
Right.
Sky MX.
Right.
But for
Oh, it's like
$100 difference
$400
between,
less than a Big Sky MX.
yeah, but the
Yeah.
difference between this and an LCAP V2 is literally $100, and you get more features out of for
Yeah.
$100. I feel like it's just a weird price point. It's almost like some of the brand confusion you get out of all of the Squire and different Fender
Sure.
iterations, where it's like, which one do I buy? Somewhat how Apple has too many iPhones now as well, where
Oh
it's like, which
gosh,
one do I
that
buy?
16E, what is that? No, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Well, I mean,
exactly.
so Strymon they released the VSTs of the Dig and the LCAP, so I don't know. I actually haven't
Forgot
played
about
with.
the Dig too. There's another, yeah. There's
Yeah,
so many delays that you could
yeah,
buy at the same size, but
yeah. I mean, for if you're crunched for space and you want the LCAP sound, you can go for the EC-1, you can get close to it. But if you don't have an issue with space, get the LCAP. That's a
this
much
is
better delay for the
our
price.
official position as the channel is spend the extra
Yeah.
$100, you get more. And getting the reverb, honestly, the reverb on the LCAP,
It's
since I was
such a
just
good
playing with the
reverb.
V2,
Such
like
a good reverb.
whenever that was, sometime in February,
Yeah.
it's a great pedal. I love it. There's also some things that the LCAP can do that the Timeline can't do.
Yeah. Well, I think that was
Um,
the initial draw to their 2-switch series is like, "Oh, you can dive deeper into those particular
yeah, like the Blue
algorithms."
Sky. The Blue Sky is also like, as far as the two switch, like that's the one
Yeah.
I've spent the most
Yeah.
time with and I've come back to it a few times
Yeah.
just because it's like it does some things in there that like you can obviously do them in the Big Sky, but they're like specifically niche
Right.
to the Blue Sky.
Right. And if
So
anybody's
I just,
wanting to know which Blue Sky to get the V2.
yeah, because having shimmer on its independent knob is definitely worthwhile. All right, well, let's wrap
Well,
up here. Just one
yeah.
more thing I want to just say, since we
Yes.
mentioned it in passing, and I just feel like it's worth noting as a milestone on the channel. So I
I'm
texted you
wearing a
this
collared shirt.
weekend. Yeah, well, you are wearing a collared shirt right now, but
That's the
it's worth
milestone.
noting that I have finally become a Mercury
Uh-huh.
X convert.
Yes. Took a
Um,
minute.
it took a minute, and what it really was I actually spent some time because I have had the Mercury 7, the single
Yeah.
pedal, and I've been like, I
Yeah.
don't need more, I don't need more. Um, but I also switch reverbs a lot. Like I'll have like the Dark Star, I'll have this, I bring in like, and I just suddenly realized, because I've always been like, I don't need a big box reverb, but I realized that like because we've made so many emulations now that I could
Mm.
just have that on my pedal board and it
Yeah.
has like a close enough approximation to like all the other ones I switch off and on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I made some of my presets I had for my Mercury 7, and that's what finally set me over the edge. I made
Yes.
my own presets, and I was like, okay, I'm not just playing with the stock ones or ones that Alan created. Of like, I'm like spending some time with my own sounds.
Yeah.
And when I discovered how much more I could tweak them, I was like, and honestly, you know what did this? It was the Enzo X, because once I started playing with
Ooh.
that, and now I'm sort of familiar with the editor because of having the
Right.
LVX for a minute,
Right.
I decided to pull out the Mercury X, and I was like, man, I should just spend some time and just like, instead of just like, oh, I have my sounds here, like just recreate them. And so I'm a convert now. I have a
Love
big
it.
box reverb on my pedal board right
Love
now,
it. And
and it's pretty cool.
I look forward to seeing more presets done by Paul. It's gonna be great.
Yes. Well, there's going to be we'll just say this since we talked about Strymon in this episode. I put together a Strymon Timeline version 1, since there isn't a 2, preset pack of sort of some of these go back like 10, 15, no, not 15, 10 years.
25 years.
No, actually, it might be 15 years, a while. But just some of the ambient presets I use, some of the like ones that actually we've put out in the LVX as well. I've done a few presets that were like my Strymon versions. So some more March stuff to tease.
There you
But
go. I
for
love
this
it.
quick little lunch break episode, we got to wrap it up. So we will see you all next week.
Love
And
it.
pay attention to Klone Wars. Vote
Klone
for your
Wars.
favorite clones as you listen and what you pull out. And keep collaborating, everyone.
I love it. Thanks, Paul. It's so nice to see you and chat with you. Everyone, y'all stay saucy. I don't know what that means.
All right, bye.
Peace.